Good morning, esteemed educators and revered guests. On behalf of the Sahodaya Samiti Gwalior, it is my privilege to welcome you to the second day's program at the 27th National Conference of Sahodaya School Complexes. Yesterday, we had a wonderful event with esteemed dignitaries and eminent guest speakers sharing their thoughts on a variety of topics. Today promises to be just as spectacular. So without much ado, let us begin. हमारे देश के अब तक के सबसे महान युवा प्रतीक स्वामी विवेकानंद जी ने कहा था, हम ऐसी शिक्षा चाहते हैं जिससे चरित्र का निर्माण हो, मन की शक्ति बढ़े, बुद्धि का विस्तार हो और जिससे व्यक्ति अपने पैरों पर खड़ा हो सके. We want education by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, the intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's feet. As we now begin the second day of the 27th National Conference of Sahodaya School Complexes, a few things to keep in mind. If you're watching this on a mobile device, please hold the device horizontally in the landscape orientation. For best results, we would recommend that you use headphones or earphones. And if in case you face any technical difficulty at any point, please feel free to use the technical support available on the navigation bar in the auditorium. Schooling in India, as we all know, has come a full circle. From value-based, boundary-less education in Gurukuls to the Macaulay system during the colonial occupation, and today we stand in affirmation of the immense role our country's heritage plays in holistic development of our future citizens. The following presentation charts this journey that education in India has traversed, from Gurukul to blended learning, from clay tablets to touch screens, from archery to game-based learning.
For me, I think a way, as you said, India has a strong educational system. And there's a culture of valuing education, which is phenomenal. I think ways in which we could move forward would be, for me, if I look at what is needed to solve the next generation of problems, creativity is an important attribute. I think so. Encouraging more creativity through the educational system. Today, I do think our educational system values, rigorous academic knowledge over necessarily, being more creative in how you approach education. I think that's important. Another thing I would say is, and I think I've seen it in the best schools in the US, etc. It's what I call, it's very experiential, very hands-on. People learn how to do things by doing them, and not just by learning about them. Right, and I think that's a big difference. So, to me, so allowing a system in which there's a lot more creativity, learning how to get things done by hand, and so much more of a project-based experiential learning, are all, I think, trends which the Indian educational system needs to adopt. And I also think it's important to teach students to take risks, and and making sure the system doesn't penalize for you to take risks, and if you're different. And so those are all attributes which I think are important.
बीती सदियों में हमने दुनिया को एक से बढ़कर एक बेहतरीन साइंटिस्ट, बेहतरीन टेक्नीशियंस, टेक्नोलॉजी एंटरप्राइज लीडर्स हमने दिए हैं। लेकिन ये 21वीं सदी है और तेजी से बदलती हुई दुनिया में भारत को अपनी वही प्रभावी भूमिका और उसको निभाने के लिए और अधिक तेजी से हमें खुद को भी बदलना होगा। आज देश के पास 21वीं सदी की जरूरतों को पूरा करने वाली नई राष्ट्रीय शिक्षा नीति भी है। अब हमारे बच्चे ना कौशल की कमी के कारण रुकेंगे और ना ही भाषा की सीमा में बंधेगी। दुर्भाग्य से हमारे देश में भाषा को लेकर एक बड़ा विभाजन पैदा हो गया है। भाषा की वजह से हमने देश के बहुत बड़े टैलेंट को पिंजरे में बांध दिया है।
That indeed was a wonderful experience, retracing the fascinating journey from heritage to digitalization of Indian education, and reminding us of the incredible history that we are now a part of. Speaking of history, it is often said that those who cannot learn from history are doomed to repeat it. As humanity, we are protected from this folly by historians and archaeologists. Their dedication to unearthing relics of forgotten times and piece together the history of those times from clues makes them almost the Sherlock Holmes of the real world. We are privileged to have with us today two eminent archaeologists, two gentlemen who have dedicated their lives to telling us about our past from cryptic clues and remnants. It will indeed be an honor to hear them talk about how the science of archaeology helps us uncover the past in a way that impacts our futures. But before I invite them to start the session, let's have a look at the introductory video.
Dr. B.R. Mani has been a renowned field archaeologist, numismatist, and art critic, and has also served as the Director General in the Archaeological Survey of India. Since then, he has been involved in conservation of monuments in Maharashtra, Goa, Delhi, and Jammu and Kashmir. He has directed more than 14 excavation projects in the country, some of which are Lal Kot in Delhi, Salimgarh in Delhi, Muhammadnagar and Harnol in Haryana, Siswania, Sankisa, Ayodhya, Lathia in UP, and Kanispur and Ambaran in J&K. He is a member of various national and international organizations in the field and has widely traveled to European and Asian countries in international seminars and conferences. He has 4 books and about 170 research papers to his credit.
Dr. S.B. Ota is retired as Joint Director General from Archaeological Survey of India and presently a Tagore National Fellow of Government of India to carry out his research on prehistory of Ladakh. Besides his services in ASI, Government of India also assigned him the additional responsibility as Director of Manav Sangrahalaya, IGRMS, Bhopal. He was the first Director of National Mission on Monuments and Antiquities launched by Ministry of Culture, Government of India under the aegis of Archaeological Survey of India. During his career as part of Archaeological Survey of India, he has undertaken large number of archaeological investigations in the different areas of the country. Some of the main projects include salvage archaeological investigations of the submergence area of Narmada Valley Dam projects in Madhya Pradesh, prehistoric investigation in high altitude Ladakh Himalayas, geoarchaeological investigations of Acheulean sites in district Raisen, Madhya Pradesh, etc. Besides archaeological investigations, he has undertaken conservation works of a large number of monuments, including World Heritage Sites, as part of ASI.
To moderate this session, I would like to invite Mrs. Surekha Maheshwari, Principal, Cambridge School, Dabra, and member of the steering committee of the Sahodaya Samiti, Gwalior. Ma'am, I would now request you to take over the session from here.
Thank you, Paridhi. Namaskar and warm greetings to the galaxy of intellectuals present here. With pride and elation, I welcome you all on behalf of Sahodaya Samiti Gwalior to the first session of Day 2 of the 27th Annual Conference of Sahodaya School Complexes. We all know that past cannot be returned nor changed. However, past never leaves us. It always follows us. It has a powerful impact on future. It gives me immense pride and joy to have amongst us Dr. B.R. Mani and Dr. S.B. Ota, archaeologists of august reputation, not just on our soil, but also acknowledged worldwide as chivalrous and celebrated catalysts towards actualizing the cohesive and futuristic ideals of preserving heritage on a glorious past through persistent efforts, on serendipitous occasions such as today, mention of the heritage, India's rich cultural diversity, and the notion of the past as a strong nation building paradigm becomes even more pertinent in the way that we are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav with esteemed fervor and zeal. Dr. Mani has been associated with museum establishment Swatantrata Sangram Sangrahalaya and Swadhinta Senani Smarak at the iconic Red Fort premise. And it gives me immense joy to invite him to share with us how has been his experience of using past as a proxy to ensure that the future generation are aware how ancient and wonderfully advanced a past civilization has been. Dr. Mani, I request you to enlighten us.
Thank you. And let me start with the story of Indian archaeology, how it all developed. Travelers and sailors who came from India, who came from Europe to India in the 16th and 17th century, noticed temples, caves, other shrines in South and West India, at Mahabalipuram, Elephanta caves, Ellora, and also in East Coast, where Konark is located. This is how the interest of scholars was attracted towards Indian heritage, art and culture, as well as archaeology. Systematic and scholarly works were carried out in the 18th century. Once the Asiatic Society was established in Kolkata, and William Jones started a journal from Asiatic Society. In 1788, the journal called Asiatic Researches. And that was the initial stage of the study of heritage in the country. And it was during that period in 1814 that the Indian Museum was formed, and amateur archaeologists and army officers like Colonel Mackenzie and others, they were moving here and there, and sometimes digging for understanding the antiquarian remains, etc. However, till 1861, it was all like antiquarianism. But once when Alexander Cunningham came into the picture, he headed the archaeological survey. Then regular researches, archaeological investigations started, and from that time onwards, there were different phases in archaeology. John Marshall came in 1902, and there was the paradigm shift when in 1920s, when he was Marshall was Director General, Indian archaeologists also started locating, discovering, and excavating certain sites. And in 1920s, early 1920s, the Harappan sites of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were excavated. And then it was a great discovery which put Indian civilization at par with Mesopotamian and Egyptian civilizations. So that was one phase. Then later on, there was a next paradigm shift when early and pre-Harappan civilization were also noticed, sites were excavated. It was the time when the country was divided into India and Pakistan, and most of the ancient sites of Harappan origin, they went towards to Pakistan. And Indian archaeologists also started locating uh, uh, Harappan and early Harappan sites. And in that course, it was noticed that the dried river bed of Saraswati is very important, and it has more sites than the Indus. So that is how nowadays we call this civilization not only Indus civilization, but we call it Indus Saraswati civilization. And then after independence, there was advancement in archaeological techniques, the scientific advancements, GPR, GIS, all such type of systems, they were introduced, and archaeology has become rather a science than only merely a humanities. So in brief, this is the development of Indian archaeology. But if you discuss this point, there will be no end of the achievements which during last, say, about 200 years India has achieved in the field of archaeology, and how it has now become not only a subject of the Archaeological Survey of India, but many other institutions, universities, and other colleges, they are also associated with archaeology, and archaeological investigations are more popular nowadays than it was earlier.
Thank you, Dr. Mani. And because the study of past isn't merely an exercise to prep through the life of our ancient ancestors, it's a way to understand the richest cultural wealth and be proud of it. Dr. S.B. Ota is the recipient of Young Scientist Award and also first Director, National Mission of Monuments and Antiquities, launched by Ministry of Culture at Bhopal. Dr. S.B. Ota, I'd like you to enlighten us with the role of the youth, the past, and the nation building.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Dr. Mani has already told you about the history of this discipline, how it grew. I'll tell a very small story, just 1 minute story. Once I went to one of my friend's house and I picked up a small pot and beautifully decorated, and somehow it fell down and broke. And he shouted at me. I said, don't worry, I'll get a much better than that from the market and give it to you. He didn't agree. So why? He said, it belongs to my great-great-grandfather. See the difference that happens with every one of us. When something is there of our past, which we think it belongs to me, to us, then we'll never compromise with that. We'll never. He didn't compromise with that, in spite of the fact that I'll be giving a new one. Then what we learn from there? We, as a human being, past is in our DNA. We cannot forget, we cannot ignore. We identify ourselves with our past. I all the time say, my father, great grandfather did such and such thing. Why not me? If that is the thing is inculcated among the children of our country, about the history of our country, archaeological background of our country, the great history we had, probably it will serve a different way for the children. Their future will be a very bright, because every country we all know, I mean, they are all proud of that. If you ask me, what is your background? I'll start from my father, grandfather, and they were there, they are so good and all that, even if I am not. So I identify all the time with my past. So here is the thing, I'll have to connect with the past. Unless I connect with the past, I cannot feel proud of that. So here the question comes, how to connect the children with our past? It's a big discussion. There are different things how we can do it. That's my take.
Dr. Ota, we know that the theme is that we are celebrating is the theme of the conference is Punar Nava. And we are very fortunate that this year we all are celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav also. And, you know, at this time, you know, if we are able, we all are aware that every city has some or the other heritage site of archaeological importance. Okay, so will Archaeological Survey of India permit students to take up some restoration activities with support from organizations to retrieve the structural beauty? How do we enhance this? How do we connect, or you know, how do we connect the students to such projects that they are able to explore a glorious heritage and get connected to it?
Yeah. Thank you, madam, for asking this question. That's probably very close to me, this question. You know, there is a very popular Nara, we call it, from local to global. It's exactly the same thing where we are lacking. When we teach the students in our books, what we teach? We teach about like Qutub Minar and all that, the different buildings or Taj Mahal, which I have never seen. I am a student where I stay in a small village at Vidisha in Madhya Pradesh. Now, no one tells me what is the history and archaeology of this place. I'm unable to connect myself with the place where I belong. That is what we are lacking. In the schools, first thing is, wherever it is located, the children should connect themselves with their native place where they are studying. They should first know their own heritage. That's what I feel. Then second thing is, there are different ways how we can really involve the students in our activities. One is, you know, there are many activities in the schools. Hardly we take the students to the different monuments and sites and explaining them. And Archaeological Survey of India is one of the organizations is very, very open to it. We can talk to them. They will be the people, those who guide it. This activities goes on throughout the year. And secondly, why not we create some sort of a heritage volunteers? You know, we have got NSS and different things. Students can be involved in maintenance of the monuments, adopt a heritage. You know, they can join hands with the you know, caretakers of the Archaeological Survey of India, and they feel that this is my monument. Why the students go there and people go there and scratch it? Because they feel that this doesn't belong to me, this belongs to the government. The day I feel that this is my heritage, I'll never scratch it. So they should feel that, and they should join hands with the ASI, and ASI has got the provisions, can do it. And secondly, every school should keep a track of the local archaeologists and historians. Every area has got. There should be a very close liaison with them. And students should come to the different monuments, sites, visit in off days, and they should feel, because it's a free, madam, it is a free up to the age of 14 and 15. So they can get into the monument at any point of time, interact with the staff, and it's free for them. And these are free. There are many things can be done in the schools to involve, not as a regular course. Regular course doesn't impact. It should form as the different activities of the schools can really be done. And there are many things can be done when you discuss. Yes, madam.
I would also like to add one thing, that considering this particular aspect, about 20 years back, around 2000, 2001, in the Archaeological Survey of India, a system was introduced of creating cultural awareness, and that too among the students and children, school-going children. And on every, the system of archaeological surveys as such that there are different circles throughout the country, and it is the entire monuments of the country are divided into different circles. They are governed by them. So all the circles were asked to follow certain heritage days. And I agree with Mr. Ota when he says that it should not be only a part of regular curriculum, but it should be some activity which can be introduced from time to time. And in that way, 6 or 7 heritage days were selected when certain functions at different monuments were organized, and I think they are still being organized, including 26th January, 15th August, 2nd October, World Heritage Day, World Museum Day, or a particular day of the circle, different circles. So on that particular heritage days, the school children as well as the students from high school and intermediate, they are also supposed to come to the monuments for about a week or so, listen to the talks of experts who introduce them to the monuments, and they are also supposed to work for conservation at those sites. And you can understand the students who are in high school, intermediate, etc. They can take part with more easiness in conservation work. However, I had noticed that the students who are from lower classes, they are also very much interested. And group of students, they are given different works at monuments, and they are very happily, they undertake the conservation work along with the conservators of Archaeological Survey of India. Madam.
Thank you, Dr. Mani. So, like while listening to you, I was like feeling like, yes, past, yesterday we were having a session on gamification. So what I felt is, yes, the session today is based on that, because it's a treasure hunt, some treasure that has been already hunted and some treasure to be hunted. So thank you so much, Dr. Ota, for, telling us, yes, local to global. First, we need to connect to our indigenous areas. First, we need to connect to the heritage sites which are near to us, and then make it global. Connecting to this, in the meantime, I request all the visionary educators who are with me today to post your questions so that we can pick up one by one, and which could be answered by our experts in archaeology, our reservoirs of knowledge with whom we are having our session today. Continuing with this, we all know that NEP 2020 recommends that knowing India is an integral part of understanding India's rich archaeological heritage. How can we integrate activities? Although we had a little bit of discussion, but still I would like you to give us more insights as educationists, how we can include it in our pedagogy, how we can integrate activities to engage children in understanding history and heritage better. Yes, Dr. Ota, Dr. Mani, both of you can give your insights on this.
Yeah. Should I speak?
Yeah.
One thing is, we can develop some sort of a local level CDs and DVDs, starting the experience that I have during my service career. What I did, local monuments which are there around the schools and all that in a small place, I prepared the large photographs, huge photographs, laminated it, and fixed it on the veranda and classrooms of the different in a school. Now, what happens? There is a small history written at the bottom to which period it belongs, and those monuments are on the next door of the school, in that surrounding area, and the history of that area. So when the students, they see it for continuously 4, 5, 6 years in that school, they will never forget. They'll never forget. In addition to this, the school trips, which is done, they go for the picnic and the visiting of the sites. They went to these sites particularly, and they used to inform us. So we come and explain the students. That is one thing. The other one is preparation of the CDs and DVDs on the local schools. Because, for example, one district like Bidisa, where I am here. Now, if a DVD is prepared on the monuments and history of this area, it can go to all the hundreds and hundreds of schools of Bidisa area. So they will be knowing that can be projected. Then we call it a heritage volunteers. It has to be a very, very long-term policy sort of thing in a school. Now, what happens? ASI is open to it. We can train these people, students, and we can fix up some sort of 100 hours in a year or 50 hours in a year. So they can come to the different monuments, work with us, whether cleaning the areas, knowing, and different things. They can lay hands with the, sometimes there are a lot of rust. They can control, like NCC students, they do it. They can do it. So they will be getting some sort of points. And finally, at the end of the year, judging about their points, and they can be given a certificate and all that, because that system need to be incorporated in the school system. Heritage volunteers can be created, and ASI is already open to it. As Dr. Mani said, we have, as a policy matter, we are all the time. Only thing what happens, the interaction is not that much the way we expect it. It has to be from both sides. Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So few takeaways are that we celebrate a few days, at least the days which are of national importance, Heritage Day, Museum Day, and we have some volunteers with the help of whom we can develop this awareness. And this idea of yours that clicking the photographs of the local heritage and putting up it on walls, really it enlightens me. And once the children are continuously seeing to it, they get an insight of at least local, the area where we are living, at least that is rich with such a glorious past. One more question I have. generally it's found that very few movies are made on archaeology. For example, Indiana Jones is a Hollywood movie that portrays an archaeologist as an adventurer. We all would have watched Guide, a Hindi movie Guide, which to some extent explores the Ajanta and Ellora caves. Likewise, there are many books also published on Indian archaeology. How students can be motivated to take up projects like filmmaking, book writing, which can have an everlasting impact on their mind, and can get a little more connected, a feeling of belongingness, a sense of pride in the past culture. So what do we do? How do we motivate, and how more movies should come up so that it said what children see that has a greater impact on them. So I would like you to throw some light on this. How we as educationists, what we can do. Yeah.
Who will give a reply?
You.
Yeah. Okay. Like filmmaking, you know that students are given different assignments in the school. So almost, as I understand nowadays, the students are very good in filmmaking, particularly with the mobiles, the standard 8, 9, 10, and all that, 11 plus 2 and all. And filmmaking idea is a very good, because the moment they do it, they'll have to bound to know the history of that area, particular monument. Otherwise, it cannot be described. So it can really be incorporated as one of the assignments in the school. History is taught. Why not as a part of the history? It can be incorporated. So they make a film, all the students, they choose different monuments. Even the same monuments can be selected by 10. But how they look at it from the different angles, what is the things which they highlight in that monument, and how do they describe it? That is the point where we connect the children with the monument, with the heritage. Filmmaking is excellent idea. It's not a big deal. It can really be incorporated as part of some sort of assignment and the competition and different things. And ASI probably will be glad to have local level some sort of a competition of the such films. Because we have got the different, as Dr. Mani said, public awareness programs, outreach programs, and this can be arranged. Absolutely no problem.
So as I requested, see, some questions are popping up here. Yeah. 2 questions which I'll read one after the other so that you can connect both the questions. This is how to generate young one's interest in the rich past of the nation, and the other is how through virtual way we can create interest in history and past. By using virtual way, how we can create interest in the history and past. Continuous questions are there, but I have picked up these 2 questions. How to generate young ones' interest in the rich past of the nation. We are seeing that things are changing very fast, and the students are running from the past. So how do we keep them intact? Past, present, future, how it would be kept intact?
Yeah.
The thing is that if only the general history is taught to the students, which includes different dates and different rulers and all, it becomes something in which general students may not be interested. But if you tell them about the heritage, about monuments, about World Heritage sites, and such things, they may be more interested for this. And following the heritage days which are celebrated, and which should be celebrated with more vigorous efforts, I think that would be one of the things to attract students' interest in history and archaeology And apart from that, there are certain films which you also mentioned, a couple of them. And recently, Discovery Channel has also made a film on the recent excavations which were carried out near Delhi in Bagpat at Sanoli, so the secrets of Sanoli. And that film has been made in such a way that it's not a monotonous description of the site or the heritage, but it describes how the chariots were made, how other objects they were used, and how the different kinds of people from society, they were using these objects in fighting, in also in domestic use. So such type of films, if they are made more, they would definitely attract the students' interest, and it will be not a monotonous history, because history, civics are such a subject in which normal students may not get interested. But if they are made interesting by adopting such techniques, students will definitely be attracted, and it is it is also as per the new education policy that which has come up now, that more and more attractive things should be created for the students at CBSE and higher levels.
May I add, Madam?
Yes, yes, sir, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
In addition to what Dr. Mani said, the children, if you see at home, they watch National Geographic and History Channel.
Yes.
90% or 95% or more, all episodes belong to the different countries. We do not have a single channel which really highlights the history and archaeology of our country. Students see that, watch National Geographic History Channel, yeah, but there is nothing to watch from our country. One. Two, if you see, the children have got different interests. If you ask them, someone say, oh, I am interested in physics, chemistry, or botany, and environment, and all that. Archaeology is such a discipline. It encompasses everything. Ma'am, you name any discipline, has to contribute to understand our past, because all these disciplines have been created because for our benefit. So the moment we created these different sciences, behavioral sciences or hardcore sciences, to understand the human, every science has to contribute to this archaeology as a discipline. So we can tell the students, if someone says, oh, I am interested only in botany, how this botany can contribute in understanding the past vegetation. If we tell them in that sense, the students from the different background, they'll be interested. That's what I feel. You will have to have a different mode altogether in the school.
So you mean to say that whatever branch we talk of, everything is connected to history, to archaeology.
I can give you that example. You can name any discipline right now.
So in our pedagogy, we need to inculcate history, connect. Yesterday, as I told, we had a session on storytelling also, and history is full of stories, full of, scientific and this stories that we need to connect. One more question, that makes me nostalgic is, like, what is the significance of artifacts in history? How do archaeologists like you reach to the whole story by just a tiny broken artifact, which could be of the size of a button to the size of a building? And like how much of imagination goes into the viewing and connecting a story that's already being discovered? So that really makes me feel nostalgic how, how you people do it. So I just want you to enlighten us with this, how it happens, what's the whole process about it, about the
This
artifacts.
is a very interesting question, and I will suggest Mr. Ota to tell
Okay.
his experience at Ladakh and
Okay.
how, for the first time, some new elements have come to our knowledge, and then later on, I'll also speak.
Yeah, very true.
Mr. Ota, please.
Yeah. Madam, I'll give us very small example. All of us, we read about the atom. Atom can be divided, electron, neutron, proton, and all that. You ask the students one question. Can anyone see electron, a neutron, a proton? No. The reaction interprets that there exists electron, neutron, or proton. Exactly in the same fashion. Archaeologists, when we get these artifacts, it's just one component. But along with that, we recreate, we study the past climate with which human beings have interacted, the landscape which was there then. So all this, because human beings interact with the environment and create all those things which they want to create. So the creations we get, material culture we get, we recreate the environment, landscape, and everything, because there are different ways to study the different sciences comes to our rescue. Then we see if human beings, a small example, people staying in Rajasthan, they won't be having any fishing net because the climate is different. They adapt in a different way. People staying in the coastal area, high altitude, all the things will be different. So we can, through analogy, one is a hardcore science, and analogy through logically based analogy. That is how it is done. And hypothesis making is everywhere. Even physics creates a laws. Laws works within a framework. It never works outside the framework. So exactly, we create the hypothesis, same scientific, which you call, there is a scientific method how they do it. Induction, what is that called? I'm just forgetting. Okay, so the way any branches of science they study their disciplines, archaeology studies the similar fashion. But whenever we tell a story, those are all logically backed with scientific data and through analogy. That is how we recreate. And exactly, Dr. Mani was telling Ladakh thing. I mean, the sites, if you see, they're very flimsy looking. For common people, it will look like a couple of artifacts and some very thin deposit of ashes. But that tells a lot of story, how they are adapting themselves in that environment. One has to, as an archaeologist, we study the geology, we study the geography, we study the human behavior, we study even the plant remains, animal remains, everything putting together. Story is created exactly like a forensic science. When forensic scientists they work, all the evidence are bits and pieces lying here and there. They study all these, pick up all that, put together and create a story. Exactly like a forensic scientist, we do the work.
Yeah, that is why I mentioned you to tell about Ladakh. And archaeology is definitely a multidisciplinary subject which involves so many scientific branches also. for this. Madam's question was also oriented towards the artifacts. Finding a small artifact, how you built up an entire story. And I'll give one example of coins. We don't have historical, epigraphic, or literary evidences about the Scythian rulers who were ruling in Gujarat, Rajasthan area. But only through their coinage, we come to know that right from 1st century AD till 4th century AD, so many rulers ruled, and their time period is also given. So it's only because of the coins that we can create the entire history of the dynasty or the people. Similarly, the Indo-Greeks, around more than 30 rulers were there, and we have only their coins through which we come to know about those names. Otherwise, except for Menander and a few others, no other ruler is known. And suppose there are certain ceramics like northern black polished ware. We have literary evidences that in Pali literature, say in the Tripitaka, it is mentioned that the monks which were moving from one place to another along with the bowl which they were carrying, if that was broken, they were tying them with copper wires. And in excavations, we find such tiny pieces of black slived ware or northern black polished ware which are broken, and they are mended with copper or iron wires. So you can make the complete story of after getting such type of evidences. I think that was where you wanted to ask about this.
Yeah. And I'm sure it takes some months or maybe years also to complete that one story, from
Yeah.
months to year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is really interesting, and always these artifacts attract me, and I always think how you decode all these things. One more question I have. There are some questions which are coming up that I'll pick up later. But one more question that I have, and which is a very recent talk also. Many historians and scholars have now debunked the Aryan invasion theory and claimed that it is just a myth. Aryan invasion myth was then why was it accepted earlier? A little bit, if you could let us know about it.
Dr. Mani will be.
Certain pro-Western ideologies with preconceived notions, biases, and self-propelled, ill-conceived hypotheses poisoned the minds of innocent Indian students and learners, suggesting that every great thing in the country was brought uh, uh, by the people who attacked the country. And in this way, the first invasion was conceived. The Aryan race was conceived, which is a misnomer. There is no such race. It is only a gentleman who is known as Arya, and he is called Arya or Aryaputra by his kinsman. So Aryan is not an ethnic entity. And then I'm sorry to say that some biblical things were followed, in which it is stated that around 4004 BC, the humans were created by Adam and Eve. And it was criticized by many Christians themselves. And probably that was the reason why everything, even when the great cities like Harappa or Mohenjo-daro or Lothal or Kalibanga or such, they were found, it was not easily palatable to many people to tell that these cities can go back even beyond 4004 BC, because that was conceived to be the time when human evolution took place. But then gradually the scientists debunked that, and there was a conference. I'll just take one more minute. There was a conference in Baroda where many stalwarts had come about 15 years back. Asko Parpola was also there, who is now unfortunately no more. He had been one of the greatest archaeologists who knew Indus civilization or Harappan civilization. And he was talking about the BMAC, that is Bacteria Margiana Archaeological Complex, which is there in the areas of Afghanistan and Bactrian regions. So he was telling that the people, the Aryans, attacked and came through BMAC region to India. While listening his theories, I very humbly told that all of their sites are fortified sites. Means they, the people in BMAC, they were feeling some attacks. They were comprehending some attacks. While during that period, around 2000 BC, after the fall of Harappan civilization, in the late Harappan period and the following periods, there is no fortified site in India. So how one can think of people attacking this area coming from Central Asia? While on the other hand, those people who had their fortified sites, they were apprehending some attacks. So the movement is not from west to east, but it should be from east to west. And then it was accepted, and Professor Bibilal also wrote about this and presented his paper in one of the South Asian archaeology conferences in 2007 later on. Now the thing is that while thinking that how we can say that the movement was from east to west, not from west to east always. We have the Bodhayan Shrot Sutra, later Vedic literature, where it is mentioned that one of the sons of Pururva, he was asked to move towards west and to organize his empire there. So he first went to Gandhar. After Gandhar, he went to Parshu, that is Persia. And after Persia, he went to Arat. Arat is Ararat in Iraq. So the movement clearly shows that in the later Vedic period, it was from east to west. Similarly, those in Turkey, there is a place called Bogazkoy, from where some clay tablets have been found, which mention the names of Vedic deities, Indra, Mitra, Varuna, etc. So those who believed that there were Aryan invasion and Aryans came from west to India, they wanted to tell that around 1400 BC, these people were the Indo-European, so-called Indo-European people, they were there, and they came to India in about 1300 or 1200 BC. Again, influenced by the 4004 BC concept. And it's not like that. It's because the people from India had made their colonies. They might have gone to that area for trading purpose, etc. They had their colonies there. And that is why in their inscriptions, we have the Indian names, we have the names of Indian deities, which have got no connection with Hittite or Mitanni people, but they are purely Vedic. So that way, and then there are so many other things connected with this. But one thing should be very clear, that there is no Aryan race as such.
So, Dr. Mani, thank you so much, and you have cleared a number of doubts. I just even didn't get it how we have come to the time also has got over, because history is something that cannot be decoded in such a short time. Let me take up just one or two questions, and then we will be ending up the session. One question I have from one of the principals, that it is said that if you take history as a subject, then career options are limited. How much scope do the children have in becoming an archaeologist? I want both of you to give your views on this, and then we will be coming to the end of a session. So why is it career options, the skills that the students require, and why do many students don't opt for this? So just if we could, conclude with this question. Yes, Dr. Ota, we'll begin with you. You are on mute. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, so for the career option is concerned, of course it is limited, but why should we think all the time archaeology as a career option? Why not we turn the table towards make it as a hobby? If you go to UK and other places, students have made it as a hobby. So that need to be inculcated among the children. That is what I feel. I do agree there is a limited scope for the archaeologists, but if we really encourage them in the different ways from the childhood days, then make it a hobby. I can collect stamps, I can collect different things, I can make anything as my hobby. So why not archaeology, knowing about the past, preparation, putting in the different, websites, their little contributions on the heritage. So one can really make it as a hobby. Even there is a lot of scope in filmmaking. There are absolutely nothing has been done so far the archaeological past of our country is concerned. Nothing. There are a lot of scope if someone goes there. It's not the job only, it's the interest and how you take it up. But madam, there are a few small questions they're asking. If you just allow me 1 minute, in the chat box. Someone is asking if there is no archaeology department somewhere, how to go ahead.
Okay.
So whosoever is asking, I'm telling you, there will be certainly bound to be local historians there. Not even immediate within 5 kilo, 10 kilometers in that district, because every university, every department has got a history department, particularly in the colleges. No district is there which is devoid of any colleges. That is one. Then someone wrote that can museum act as some sort of hosting such programs? Yes, it is already there. Most of the museums, not only the ASI museums, control museums, outside museums, they do host lot of things, programs, courses for the children. One has to keep track of that. And there is a unique school at Bhopal, which is called Museum School. They do not have a roof. And the children, one day classes are done in the State Archaeology Museum, one day in Manav Sangrahalaya Museum, another the Science Museum, and the classes run there. Then someone asked, in army schools, what should we teach? Because the students are coming from the different background, from different areas. That is really the place where we can teach about the nation's history directly, because you are leaving aside your own background and all coming together. You can change. It's not that the local, global, everywhere. There, you can have a different integration, because people from different states, you can integrate that. And someone asked, can we have role plays or street plays within the monument premises? Of course, it is done. You can contact the Archaeological Survey of India. We have done it among the children, like how not to write graffitis, make graffitis on the walls, how to clean it. There are beautiful street plays we have conducted in the different monuments. If the schools, they come forward, ASI will, I hope ASI will also come forward, and we'll have to meet. And best thing is, every district, wherever there are 5, 10, 15 schools, just find out the people. There are activists, historians are there as activists, archaeologists are there as the activists in the different areas. They can tie up with that.
Okay, just Dr. Mani and Dr. Uta, something in very brief that today we as educators, all of us could take from, both of you with such an enriched experience, who are so much connected to the past, that could be a punchline for today and always, and it could embark in our memories, some takeaways from both of you. Dr. Mani and Dr. Uta.
First.
Before we conclude with today's session, from your enriched experience, something as a tagline which we also have. Yeah.
Okay, I'll say a few words and then Dr. Mani.
Yeah.
Our history or archaeology, there's archaeology as a source. It's not away from our own individual history. It's a part of our life. That is what everyone should think. It's part of me, not different from me. One. And secondly, we all should feel proud of my heritage, whether it's a natural heritage, archaeological heritage, or any such thing. Because if I am identified myself with something, if I say I'm Indian, it's not because of the boundary, it is because of its beautiful history I had, beautiful background I had in my past. Because of that, I feel proud to be an Indian. So everyone should connect themselves with their past.
Thank you. So,
In fact,
yes, Dr. Mani.
archaeology is definitely the best source for understanding history of any people or land. But in itself, it's a multidisciplinary subject, and it attracts almost every scientific and literary and humanistic disciplines. Considering this, the World Heritage has also been formed, and out of 897 cultural sites in the world, then 218 natural sites and 39 mixed sites. In total, 1,154 sites as on July 2021. India has a good number of sites, 40 sites under it, in which there are 32 cultural sites, most of which are looked after by Archaeological Survey of India. And we have to see that the Archaeological Survey, in association with universities and different learned institutions, come forward in a more vigorous way as the time requires, and inculcate the feelings of love and affection towards its country's monuments and sites, so that our future generation will be benefited.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mani. I think we are towards the end of the session, and I would just like to conclude by saying that generally it's said that past should be forgotten. We should live in the present and not think about the future. But here I would decode it in some other way. I say that I live my present and I plan my future just because I had a glorified past. And with this, I end the session, and the takeaways would be that local to global, that first we connect to our local heritage sites. We as educators, I think, will start discovering our nearby heritage sites and connect our students, encourage them to make some films on it, and also start celebrating all the national days and that which you said, maybe by taking them for a visit to heritage sites. I'd like to thank all my visionary leaders who were with me throughout there in the session, and for posting questions. There were a few more questions that we couldn't answer. Thank you once again, Dr. Mani and Dr. Ota. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you as well as to all the participants in this.
Yes. Very, very engaging participants we had, who were throughout very enthusiastically posting questions which were very relevant, and this shows how the concern for the young minds, how in the pedagogy we all are interested in adding up and in connecting the past history. Yes,
And,
Pariti,
and
yes.
another thing, madam,
Yes.
thank you. And one thing I can help you is, if your participants, they want any information, I cannot say that I can give 100 informations, all the info 100%, but if anyone wants anything, any information, whatever they are asking, they want to know, they can, you can give them my email ID, they can write to. Absolutely,
Okay,
no problem. They'll get the reply. They'll get the reply.
Okay, sir. Surely I'll share it with them, and thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, Pariti, you may.
Thank you.
take.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was indeed a thought-provoking session, and I'm sure the audience has been able to take a lot of insights from
Very
Dr. Mani and Dr. Ota. Dr. Mani and Dr. Ota, I would like to thank you both once again on behalf of the audience for such an engaging discussion and for answering their questions. It was indeed a privilege having you here today. So thank you so much. Also, I would like to thank Surekha ma'am for moderating the session so wonderfully. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Pariti.
Ladies and gentlemen, now that we have spoken of archaeology and with Gwalior as the host city, how can we possibly not take a look at the architectural and archaeological wonders of the region? We would now like to present some videos prepared by students of a member school of Sahodaya Samiti, Gwalior.
धरोहर सिर्फ धरोहर नहीं होती, ये कहती है अतीत की गौरव गाथा। ईंट, पत्थर, गारे से बने भवन ही इतिहास नहीं होते। यह आईना है हमारी संस्कृति, हमारी सभ्यता, हमारी प्राचीनतम विरासत का। यह सच है कि प्राचीन इमारतों के अंदर खड़े होकर हम इतिहास के उस पार झांकने लगते हैं और स्वयं को भी उस काल चक्र में खड़ा हुआ महसूस करते हैं। और ये इमारतें होती हैं इतिहास की अमूल्य धरोहर। ऐतिहासिक और पुरातात्विक धरोहरों में एक महत्वपूर्ण स्थान है मितावली का, जो मुरैना जिले में है। वहीं 100 फीट ऊंचाई शिखर पर स्थित है शिवजी का मंदिर, जो विशाल परिक्षेत्र में फैला हुआ है। पुरातत्ववेताओं के अनुसार राजा कच्छप घटा ने 10वीं शताब्दी के अंतिम वर्षों में इसका निर्माण करवाया। किंवदंती है कि हजारों वर्ष बाद भारतीय संसद का निर्माण इसी मंदिर को परिप्रेक्ष्य में रखते हुए किया गया। मंदिर के अंदर जाकर लगता है कि हम संसद भवन में खड़े हुए हैं, जो कि अत्यंत आश्चर्यजनक बात है। मंदिर के चारों ओर 64 योगिनियों के मंदिर हैं। मितावली के अतिरिक्त 64 योगिनियों के मंदिर भारत में रानीपुर झारिया, उड़ीसा, जबकि मध्य प्रदेश में जबलपुर और खजुराहो में स्थित है। राजा कच्छप घटा कछवाहा वंश के शासक थे। उन्होंने ग्वालियर क्षेत्र में ग्वालियर के किले पर सहस्त्रबाहु के मंदिर का निर्माण करवाया एवं शिवपुरी जिले के कड़वाहा, सूख्या, महुआ, तेराही क्षेत्र में अनेक मंदिरों का निर्माण करवाया था। मिताबली के इस मंदिर की खास बात यह है कि इसकी बनावट और परिदृश्य भारत की संसद की तरह है। मंदिर के बीचों बीच शिवलिंग की स्थापना की गई। यह मंदिर वास्तु और स्थापत्य कला का अनुपम उदाहरण है। कुछ मूर्तियां बाहर भी देखी जा सकती हैं जो घुमावदार आकृति में है। माना जाता है कि यह प्राचीन यौगिक क्षेत्र है। कहा जाता है यहाँ पर धार्मिक अनुष्ठान, तंत्र मंत्र, साधना, कर्मकांड आदि सिद्ध कार्य होते थे। यहाँ की नक्काशी देखकर सोच भी नहीं सकते कि पत्थर पर भी ऐसा शिल्प सौंदर्य उकेरा जा सकता होगा। मिताबली क्षेत्र आज अपनी पुरातात्विक गाथा स्वयं कहता है। हर धरोहर एक चेहरा, एक सभ्यता होती है। यहां से गुजरते और अंदर जाते समय साए साए की ध्वनि में हवा की लय सुनाई देती है और एहसास होता है कि हजारों वर्ष पूर्व अनुष्ठान होता होगा। मंदिर में प्रवेश करने पर मंत्रों का उच्चारण, मंत्र साधना की रहस्यमयी गूंज आज भी मंदिर के गर्भगृह में महसूस कर सकते हैं। एक अनहद नाद आज भी यहाँ गुंजायमान है और हम पहुंच जाते हैं हजारों वर्ष पूर्व मन में असीम शांति के साथ मितावली के इस अद्भुत क्षेत्र।
I'm sure this has left us marveling at both the rich heritage of the region as well as the spectacular creativity of our students. Moving on from here, ladies and gentlemen, as you might have already noticed, the news about the 27th National Conference of Sahodaya School Complexes has now been in the media, and eminent experts from various corners of the country have reached out to congratulate the entire education fraternity. We have a short message from Dr. Sudhir Kumar Mishra, Director General, Defense Research and Development Organization, and Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, BrahMos Aerospace. Let us have a look at the video.
Namaskar. It gives me immense pleasure to be part of National Sahodaya Conference 2021, organized by Central Board of Secondary Education and Ministry of Education, Government of India. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, my greetings to one and all. Education, according to great scientist Albert Einstein, is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think. Education leads to empowerment. It is the most empowering force in the world that creates knowledge, builds confidence, breaks down barrier to opportunities, results in...
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short recess. We will join back in the next 10 minutes when we have a look at a different aspect of the wonderful heritage that our country offers to the world. I would request you all to come back in the next 10 minutes so that we can resume the session. Thank you so much.